Today, we're going to tear down an engine that I've never had on the channel because last week I tore down a 6-liter GM V8, which I've done at least a dozen times in the nearly 4 years I've been doing it. So I wanted to find something that was more exciting, something that I have never worked on, and I came across this. I didn't really come across this. I put a little effort into it and I went out and found one. This is the 2-liter turbo Hurricane engine out of a 2019 Jeep Cherokee. It's essentially the same engine you can find in a JL Wrangler base model. It's just in a front-wheel drive platform. You can tell it's out of a front-wheel drive because it has a mount here, whereas the JL Wranglers don't have anything here. This only has 63,000 miles on it, which seems really low for it to make its way to my stand. The 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder found in the JL Wrangler and the front-wheel drive-based Jeep Cherokee is a global engine. You can find these engines in all sorts of different Stellantis and Fiat products, including some Alfa Romeos and even Maserati. In the Jeep platforms, these engines produce 270 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That's pretty peppy for a base model Jeep. I can't really remember a time where any base model 4-cylinder Jeep was considered peppy. The 2.5 was anemic at best. The 2.4 was still underpowered. This is pretty good, especially considering they are mated to an 8-speed automatic, which I think is kind of a downfall. Not anything against the 8-speed automatic, but from what I read, you cannot get this engine paired with a manual transmission. If you want a manual in a JL Wrangler, you have to get the V6, which is the opposite case of the Ford Bronco, where you have to get a 4-cylinder to get a manual. New car stuff. The very first thing I'd like to do is see how the engine turns over, see if we can hear anything loose inside, or if it even makes a full revolution. I can feel a little bit of compression. I've verified that there's already plugs in it. This is not enough compression. I'm not even using the end of the bar. In order to demonstrate how little compression I feel, I am now going to use the smallest quarter drive ratchet I have in the shop to turn the engine over. Okay, now it feels strong. I hear some compression. Maybe it's just got to warm up. The first thing I'd like to do is pull the spark plugs, see what they look like. Well, that wasn't very tight. Well, none of them are tight. Well, that explains the lack of compression. Well, none of the plugs are smashed. These are NGKs. I think they're iridiums. They don't look very good. The rear one, cylinder 4, is a little wet looking, but nothing's smashed or bent over, so I don't suspect we're going to see any major catastrophic failure. No malice in the combustion palace. Now let's turn this over and see how it feels with no plugs. I don't hear anything loose. I hear a little bit of chain noise, which is probably pretty normal with no oil pressure. Since this did not have an intake manifold, we have an easy look at the intake valves. They're pretty not great. They're not terrible though for a DI engine. Yeah, they're pretty built up back there. I don't see any chunks of metal or anything crazy in there, so that's a good thing. The next thing I'd like to do is remove the turbocharger. Got a new impact for the channel. Very excited. This works real good. Real good. I have to admit, I don't really know exactly the order of things that need to come off of this, but we're going to find out. It doesn't really seem loose enough yet. Looks like the oil feed. Here's the oil return. Some more bolts. This has a pretty interesting wastegate design. It's an electric actuator, but it still drives a rod. So when you want to put this on a different car completely, you can just put a vacuum actuator here and it's happy. Maybe. All right, so apparently I have to take that rod off. I have no idea where that went, other than off. We'll just take them both off. Well, that might work. It's just enough. All right, did that help me? No, it looks like this heat shield is held on at the turbo, but I have to take the oil drain off. The oil return must come off. So let's see if we can get to that from the bottom here. This is not super straightforward. I think we can remove, there's that. How am I supposed to do this? All right, there's the oil drain. I'm sure that's super easy in the Jeep. Next, we're gonna go ahead and get the other side of this line removed. Next, there is a bolt right here. It's kind of in the way. This is one of the coolant lines for the turbo. I could pull the turbo with the other coolant line, except for it's really long and wraps around the other side of the engine. So I have to find a way to get that bolt out. And they've made it fun. I don't know if that's gonna round it off or just zip it out. Whoa, sorry guys. But it came out. Let's get blue on this job. That is perfect. Now I think all we have to do is unbolt the turbo. I think that's where we're at. There's some 13s that hold this to the head. Well, looks like I got to take the heat shield off. Ah, that's better. Now I can get to the other 3 bolts that hold the turbo to the head. Oh, that's it. And the turbo's off. I think we can pull this off too. I don't know if it understands. There we go. So this is a pretty healthy sized turbo. It's a big old twin scroll. The exhaust wheel is wet. That is not a good sign. Let's look, see what the impeller looks like. That looks okay. Let's see if it spins like it's supposed to. Just gonna set that right there. Sure does. I think this is a pretty decent piece. I have no idea what the value is, but it's certainly not going to end up in the scrap bin. Did you guys really think I was going to throw the turbo? No. Next, we're going to remove the high pressure fuel line. Hopefully it's not under pressure. It is not. You never know. Next, we're going to remove the fuel rail and injectors, and I think it's hilarious that the valve cover has "good" written on it. Well, then why is it here? Let's see how tough this is to get out. Really don't want to pry on the plastic valve cover. There, this will protect it. Oh, it moved. Oh, it's doing stuff. Axle, oh, that's crusty looking. Well, that looks like coolant. So I'm finding this kind of interesting because there was definitely some coolant that made it down into this part between the cylinder head and the injector, and it's not in the others, but it could also be that when someone was pulling this engine, some coolant spilled down there and there's no easy way to get it out. So perhaps that's why, but that definitely looks like dried up coolant to me. Next, we'll remove the EGR valve. It looks like the EGR passage runs right through the valve cover. That is an EGR valve, right? The next first thing I'd like to do is peel off the valve cover. Oh, looks like I need a 10 for a couple of these. I think at this point we can start to pry the valve cover off. No idea how hard this is going to be, but we're going to do it anyway. Oh, this is really glued on there. There we are. Making a little progress. Wow. Clean. And I'm not saying clean like some kid looking at a clapped out G35. It is actually clean. Oh, I see some stuff. So I'd like to divert your attention here. Look at the condition of the roller. That is supposed to be an even finish all the way across, and it is not. They have unusual wear on the rockers. Now, I understand that Fiat or Chrysler or Stellantis have never had issues with rocker arms. Sorry. I'd hate to think that that's the same issue with these. We don't really know that yet. Still early in the teardown. I will say that the oil in this thing looks like there is some stuff suspended in it. I'm sure we'll see more later. While we're here, let's just get this coolant pipe out of the way. It's an external Torx, but we can use an 8 on it. The next thing I need to do is remove this motor mount bracket. The next thing I want to do is remove the crank pulley. We're going to actually try my new cordless impact. I don't think this is going to work. Oh man, you guys are going to miss the air impact. Don't worry, I'm still going to use it when I can. The next thing we're going to do is remove the belt tensioner and the idler because we're going to work on tickling the timing cover off. I've got a whole bunch of 10mm bolts. Oh, I got to remove the oil pan diaper. I think they do that for sound deadening, not in case it poops itself. And I think that's it. Let's see if we can pry this cover off. One thing I did not see are jack bolt points, like a threaded boss in the timing cover to run a bolt in and pop the cover off like some Fords and other manufacturers have. So we're just going to start kind of prying on it. Not really quite sure how this is going to come off, other than it will. Not really a lot of places to pry on this side. Is this side any better? This side seems pretty loose now. Ooh, maybe not. Right around here would be a nice place to have a boss or something to try to pry against. Don't do it this way on your engine. Oh, do you seriously have to remove the water pump for this? Why? No, you don't. Well, there's the inside of our timing cover. It looks beautiful, as it should for an engine with such low miles. So the timing system looks pretty good. It's not super complicated, although this looks like a balance shaft here. I don't know why a 2-liter needs a balance shaft, but that's what that looks like. There's your oil pump, your crankshaft. Not super crazy. I don't see any signs of damage. There's no signs of problems in here. It all looks really good. So now it's time to peel the timing chain off of it, and the first thing we're going to do is unbolt the tensioner. Ooh, that had some oomph behind it. And now we can remove the rails. These rails are in perfect condition. These are like brand new. Now we can take this beautiful chain. Oh, that is the best. Look at that length, the girth. Before we go cramming the cam craps off, we need to remove the high pressure fuel pump, which is here. I'm sure we can get this off easily. Ow. I know there's 2 bolts that hold this on. I just don't know how to get the other one. Oh, I broke that. Oh, how am I going to put this back together like this? Boy, this is proving to be a little on the challenging side. There's definitely another bolt, but I don't know how it comes off. Let's get this coolant pipe out of the way first. Did that do anything for me? Kind of. I really just want to get this off. That did it. All right, coolant pipe's out. How do we get to the other bolt on the pump? How are you supposed to do this, guys? All right, I think I figured this out. And there's a high pressure fuel pump. I'm going to remove this top bridge guide real quick. Just makes things easier. Now it is time to cram the cam craps off. I'm going to crack these loose so we can pull the camshafts. Now we can zip these out. Does this come off separate from the cam? Not what I wanted to do. Not what I wanted to do. Let's take a look at the cylinder head. The journals in the head look pretty good. I don't see any signs of debris or oil starvation, but all the rockers have some grooves in the finish. They all spin nice. I wonder why they develop grooves. Is it debris? Is it some sort of metallurgy problem? And the camshafts look pretty good, but one awesome thing that I really like to see is that they have a bearing, a roller bearing at the front of the camshaft, right behind the cam gear. Instead of having a journal here that's oil pressure fed, which this still could be oil pressure fed, they have a roller bearing, which is great. A lot less chance for metal to wear and debris to get in there and cause an issue, although I suppose it could cause an issue with that. But I suspect that the reason they did that is a reduction in friction and nothing more. Not a ton of wear here. Camshafts look good. A little bit there. It's really not terrible. The cams all have some grooves on the lobes from probably corresponding with what's on the cam caps. I don't know that I would be that concerned with it, although this is a pretty low mileage engine, so that is concerning. But the caps do show some wear. Of course, you have spring tension against them, so typically if there's going to be a problem, this is where you will see it first. And there's a little bit of damage there. Because I like to show some comparisons from time to time, I wanted to show you the difference between a rocker arm out of this engine and then the bottom one here is out of a Pentastar. Very similar design, but they are not the same, thankfully. There you go. Now it is time to crack the head bolts loose. Let's see how tight these are. Wow! I was not expecting that. It knocked half the rocker arms off. My shoulder may not recover from this. Okay, now we can zip these out. Seems like I'm down on some air pressure. There is one more bolt I think I need to take out. It's this one right here. Oh yeah, that had to come out. And now we can lift the head, I think. That was really easy. That's just dropping rockers. Are you done? Let's pull the head gasket. That looks okay. I don't see any deformities here. It's an MLS gasket. It looks okay to me. And we have rods and pistons that are present. So let's take a look at the pistons and the bores. Uh-oh. That's a problem. I wonder why that's like that. That one looks good, or better. There is some debris in there, but I think that fell in when I pulled the injectors out or the plugs out. But that is really damaged. I don't see any damage from making contact with the cylinder head. The pistons all look pretty decent. Now it's time for our weekly dose of science. I don't see anything too terrible. There, now we're going to push this down and look at the other two bores. Oh no! Cylinder 4, that's not good. 2 is okay. No, excuse me, 1 looks okay. I don't see any issues there, but 2 and 4, they don't look so good. Bore score and 7 years ago. The cylinder head looks pretty good. I don't see any differences between any of the different combustion chambers. Don't see any places where it might be cracked. I think this is a good cylinder head. I have no idea what it's worth, but I'm certainly not going to toss it in the scrap bin. I'm not, I swear. Before we roll this thing over, we have a few parts to remove, mainly the EGR cooler and the water pump. Could have gone without that. Well, I can't say that felt good. Now we can start removing. Oh, wait. We have a hose to the oil cooler. We got to get that off. Now, we should just be able to pry some stuff off. Oh, I missed a bolt. Now, what about this? Will this come off easy?
This water pump is difficult.
Oh, there's a connector thing. There was a connector thing. All right, we're going to zip this apart. There's got to be more to it than that. I can't believe that didn't work. That did it. So there's the water pump. I'm not quite sure what this part does. It looks like there's a valve. I guess that's to keep the water pump from pumping coolant when it's cold. Helps the engine warm up faster. And I'm just guessing. I could be wrong. That looks like it's in really good shape. Looks original. Looks like a great part. Let's roll this thing over so we can pull the oil pan. Is it going to leak anything? Hopefully not. Probably. Well, this engine has a bolt-on diaper. Do they have these for kids yet? We're going to start at the back. I know, but this has some T30s. What is going on here? I don't understand that. Are these... Those are not T30s? They look like T30s. What else would they be? Let's try a T27. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be very mad. It's a T27, guys. Of all of the no good fasteners they could pick, a T27? But why? It's the same bolt, but it's not the same bolt. Boy, that's going to trip up some techs. We're going to go ahead and get this oil filter off while the pan is still bolted to the engine. It's a factory filter. I like to see that. We'll get this cut open before the end of the video. Now we can unbolt the rest of the oil pan. All right, let's see what it takes to get this pan off. It does not look like it's been off before. It is glued on pretty good. Looks like there's a place to pry with a screwdriver. They don't want me to use blue, I guess. Sorry, guys. Sorry, blue. This pan's not for you. What is that? What is this? What? I know what this is, but why is it here? Why is that here? That's not supposed to be here. So, finding part of an oil control ring in the pan when all the rods and pistons appear to be in okay shape is kind of a head scratcher. Definitely not a good engine, so that's the good news. But this is a first. You know, new engines, new problems. The screen looks pretty clean, and I only see those two pieces, but I bet we're gonna find more. But we're not gonna see any in here. We turned that engine over, so it was probably in here for a bit, and then when I flipped it over, it ended up on the windage tray. But there are a few pieces in the pan. That's not good. Now we'll remove the pickup. Oh, hey, look. That is part of a piston. This is becoming worse. The more you look, the more you find. Now we'll remove the pickup tube and the windage tray. Uh-oh. That's not supposed to make noise. Let's see what's hiding in this thing. That's a terrible place to put your piston rings. Oh, lost a piece. Yeah, that's not supposed to go there. I can't believe we found all that in there so far. Next, we will pull the windage tray. Well, there's nothing bad stuck to the back of that. Now we're going to make an effort to remove the stuff on the timing side. We've got our oil pump and a balance shaft. Not sure how this stuff comes out, but we'll find out. And now that those are loose, we'll go ahead and get the tensioner. Now some T30s. Uh-oh, that was loose. I'm just dropping all the bolts in the pan. There's that setup. Now we'll pull the oil pump out of its pocket. This kind of reminds me of the old Mazda MZR series engines, just how it's off to the side like this. And it's gone. Oh, there's a solenoid on the back. That's an interesting situation. I think this thing just slides out. Yeah, there's that unit. It's got a seal here. Drain a little bit of oil out of it. And then there's another gear in here. What does that do? I guess it has two balance shafts. There's one in here and one right there. Let's go ahead and drain the oil out of the oil pump. We'll go ahead and blast this thing apart because that's what we do. Let's get this zipped apart. That's all I see that holds this together, and it's already starting to come apart. There we are. Pretty simple unit, vane style. Feels all right. I can't really get this apart though, because it looks like, oh, we just dropped a detent out of it. It looks like there's a special tool or something to get this off. I don't possess that. But I don't see a lot of signs of anything bad going through here. A little bit of wear on this, but it doesn't look bad. Now I'm going to see what it takes to get these balance shafts out. I have no idea. Oh, cool. A roller bearing, a needle bearing. 2 of them. That's neat. Now we're going to try to remove the other balance shafts. There's just one T30 in here. I don't know what it's going to take to get that one out, but we're just going to pull on it and see what happens. There she goes. So here's a better look at the balance shafts. I know someone would ask, so I wanted to show everything. And I do like the fact that it has wide rollers, but I don't like the fact that it has plastic cages. If those cages were metal, I'd feel much better about these. But I don't know that it's actually going to become a problem. Here's what the rotating assembly looks like while it's still assembled. It's pretty simple. It does have bolts for the main caps on the sides of the block. It doesn't just have these 2 bolts here. Now it is time to remove the rods and pistons. Let's go ahead and push the first rod and piston out. Ooh, it almost fell out. I'm going to turn this thing over to get to the next 2. This turns over really nice. Oh, hey, look. A ring. That doesn't go there. Let's go ahead and crack number 2 loose. Wow. That literally fell out. Number 3. I'm noticing a trend with this engine. Let's go ahead and push number 3 out. Let's go ahead and turn it over for the final one. I can use my hand on this. Look at this. No friction. It's those low tension rings that are broken. Crack these loose. I don't want to drop a piston out of it. I have a feeling that there's not a lot of resistance. Oh yeah, it literally just fell right to the top of the bore. And that one was full of oil too. Now it's time to zip the main bolts out. I got an idea. Okay, those are actually tight. Yep. Okay, we'll do that the right way. I also need to remove this rear main plate. It'll probably come out with the crank. You can't tell which one is the thrust bearing. It looks like this one might be it. Let's try this one just once more. Yeah, that's thrust bearing for sure. Now we're going to use a crank to try to get that thrust main out. Nope, that's not happening. What gives? I don't like doing this. I think we can get it now. Now we should be able to lift the crank right out. Well, let's start with the rod bearings. They have some wear, but they're not really that bad. At this mileage, you wouldn't expect them to be too bad. And my guess is the little damage they have is strictly from what we're going to see later. The main bearings, those look pretty good. Very similar wear on every shell, no concerns there. And then we get to the rods and pistons. Now, all the rods look good. I don't see any defects, no damage whatsoever. But the pistons, that's a whole other story. This one looks okay. But there looks like there's a slight crack right there. And that could just be a piece of carbon, to be honest. I don't see anything too terrible. A little bit of damage at the very top of the crown, but really not bad. And then we get to cylinder number 2. Now keep in mind, cylinder 1 was fine looking. The bore was. Cylinder 2, not so much. So this side looks okay. And then we get into the land of the rings. Is quite a bit of damage, and it gets worse. Look at all those cracks. There's one. And if you look above it, above the second compression ring, you'll see even more damage. But this isn't even the showstopper. This is obviously bad. It's a bad piston. But let's go to cylinder 3. Cylinder 3, nice. It's good. There's no issues whatsoever. I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Because all the damage, well, cylinder 4 is wrecked. Absolutely wrecked. The ringlands are gone. They have vanished. The rings were just peeling off of this thing sitting here. I mean, look at this. You're not supposed to be able to remove the ringlands, only the rings, and it's just peeling apart. That's why we found ringlets in the oil pan. You can definitely see that combustion gases were getting past the rings. Man. Oh, shedding more pieces. It's fine. So that is wrecked. There's a better look at the damage to piston number 4. The crankshaft looks excellent, which is exactly why I'm not going to cut the oil filter open. I mean, I could, but I don't think there's anything to see. Nothing's going to make it past the screen that wasn't in the pickup. And this is not an oil starvation situation. Let's look at the bores here. Little bit of wear there. Cylinder 1. It's not too terrible. Cylinder 2 is pretty wrecked. That is that's not good. Ooh, that's too bright. Sorry, guys. There's a better look at the damage on cylinder 2. Cylinder 3, remember that piston was pretty decent, so there's not really any remarkable damage here. And then cylinder 4 exists. And you would say, oh, it looks pretty good, you know. And it doesn't. It's really bad. Now, I'm not sure if you can bore these out or if you need to sleeve them. I have no idea how much material is left. There's not even a lot of information about what you can do with these things. But this one is going to need a lot of work. I have a pretty good idea of what happened here, but I don't exactly know the root cause. So typically, pistons break from detonation. And especially in late model turbocharged vehicles, that is usually caused from low speed pre-ignition. And I think that's likely what took this thing out. These are designed to run at 87 octane, but they also have very specific oil requirements for what type of oil you run in these. This engine did not look ill-maintained. I don't think it had enough miles on it to look bad if it was ill-maintained, but I didn't see any signs that someone used cheap oil or someone went crazy far on their oil change interval. But what I did see is 2 broken pistons. And if you search Google for Jeep 2-liter broken piston, you get lots, I wouldn't say lots, but several similar results from other people with same type of failure. Same engine, same type of failure, broken pistons causing low compression. And none of them said that their vehicles were modified. None of them said that their vehicles were driven that hard. Although I know some people that drive some of their 2-liter Jeeps really hard. Cliff, looking at you. Regardless, I don't know what to do to avoid this other than making sure you change your oil on time and making sure you're listening to how your engine sounds. You can hear detonation. It sounds like pinging or marbles in a can. There's tons of videos on it. And if it starts making that noise, take your foot out of it immediately. These engines are not cheap, and the labor to replace them is also getting more expensive year after year. I wish I could tell you how to totally avoid this scenario. I know some of you are going to say, well, if you don't buy one, then you can't have this happen. And, well, we've seen several other engines on this channel that had similar types of failures. So you just got to be careful with what you buy. And I don't think this is a super common issue, something that's going to happen to all of them. I would bet that there's probably some software updates that some vehicles have or don't have. Maybe Fiat, Chrysler, Stellantis have come out with a new update to alleviate this issue. I don't think this was a modified vehicle that had like a downpipe and a tuner on it, although I don't really know. Not many people that drive front-wheel drive based Jeep Cherokees want to modify them. It's not like the old Cherokees. Anyway, overall, this was a pretty cool engine. I am kind of impressed with some of the technology in it. I really like the roller bearings on the camshafts. I really like that. The balance shafts having plastic cages on the needle bearings was probably not a big issue, but we won't know until these things are 10 or 15 years old, and they're not quite there yet. The rest of this was very simple. It's a very easy engine to work on. I didn't see anything that I would run away from, and I don't think it's any worse or better than the 3.6 Pentastar, which is the better engine, well, the more expensive engine option. I don't know if it's more expensive, but it's the other engine option. Anyway, I am so happy I got my hands on one of these engines, and it has lots of really good parts. So if you happen to need parts for your likely still under warranty Jeep, or if you want to buy something for your desk as an ornament or something, you guys are all weird. I'm weird too. It's fine. I'm going to leave our email in the video description. If you would like to buy parts off of this Kang Ranch 2006 F250 or F350, it's a 1-ton. You can also go to importapart.com and peruse our inventory. We've been uploading our parts cards every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown as always. I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.